I woke up on Mary's 10th birthday to the kind of sunshine that looks like a promise. Balloons on the ceiling, streamers like confetti vines, dollar store crowns stacked by the door. I'd stretched every coupon and every favor, a sheet cake with edible glitter, a borrowed Bluetooth speaker, a second-hand piñata that still smelled like someone else's party. I even splurged on a magician who brand marketed himself as El Magnifico. 2 exclamation points, because 10 felt like an age you should remember for the right reasons. By noon the living room was a rainbow. By 1, the lemonade sweated in the pitcher. By 2, Mary's glitter crown listed like a small ship. Maybe they're stuck in traffic, she said, trying to sound older than her face. I texted the group chat, Mom plus sisters plus me, titled Girl Gang like a joke God forgot to laugh at. Delivered. No reply. At 2:30, the magician texted running 20 minutes late. And never materialized. The neighbors' twins came because they always come. Their mom sent a tray of empanadas and whispered, I brought extra napkins, just in case, like she knew we'd need to mop up disappointment too. We played musical chairs with the neighborhood kids and clapped too loudly. Mary laughed the way a brave person laughs, bright on the surface, thin underneath. At 3, I stopped hovering by the window. At 3:05, I opened Instagram. My family was all together at a rooftop brunch on the other side of town. Champagne flutes, a tower of oysters, everyone in coordinated neutrals like a lifestyle ad for expensive forgiveness. Mom's caption, family first. My oldest sister, who still has my spare keys from that time she was between places, posted a boomerang of clinking glasses. My middle sister wrote, no better way to spend a Saturday. I stared and stared until the comments blurred, you all look amazing. Squad goals. Blessed. The word blessed tasted like metal. I didn't cry in front of Mary. I served cake with a smile and a joke about El Magnifico refunding his extra exclamation point. Mary smashed the piñata twice as hard as necessary, candy rained like mercy. When the last neighbor kid waved goodbye, she curled up next to me on the couch and said, very carefully, it was still a good birthday, Mom. I kissed her hair and told her she was my favorite miracle. That night, after she fell asleep hugging a plastic tiara, my phone pinged. A mass email from my youngest sister's planning committee for her upcoming blowout. They'd put my name, without asking, on a digital flyer under sponsors, platinum level, Marta. A tidy bullet list of what I would be covering, venue deposit, DJ, custom bar. Estimated contribution, $3,500. Due date, yesterday. I stared at the flyer while the dishwater cooled. My mother had replied all with, Marta always comes through. She's our rock. A cousin I haven't seen in years had added a hands raised emoji like he was praising a god he didn't tithe to. Something inside me shifted, like a door I didn't know was locked until it opened. I thought of Mary peeking through the curtains at 2 o'clock, of family first, of the magician who never came and the way we still clapped. I opened my banking app. I typed in the committee's payment link. My thumb hovered. Amount, $1. 00, memo, 4 boundaries. I pressed send and, for the first time in my adult life, didn't brace for impact. I stood up, walked to the front door, and slid the chain across with a click that sounded exactly like a beginning. By Sunday morning, my phone was a war zone of notifications. The group chat, Girl Gang, had finally woken up. Mom, Marta. What is this nonsense? Older sister, you're joking, right? Tell me that $1 was a mistake. Middle sister, we already confirmed you as a platinum sponsor. I told people you'd cover the DJ. Mom again, after all we've done for you, this is how you repay your family? The irony nearly made me choke on my coffee. I didn't reply. I left the messages on read, which, honestly, felt more powerful than any speech I could have written. I took Mary to the park instead. She raced across the grass with the neighbor twins, her laughter echoing, while I sat on the bench breathing in air that wasn't heavy with guilt for once. When I got home, I found 3 missed calls from my mother and 1 from an unknown number. Voicemail, my mother's voice, icy and trembling. You've embarrassed me, Marta. Do you understand? Everyone saw your name under Platinum Sponsor. People are asking questions. How could you humiliate your own sister like this? Humiliate. That word hit me like a spark on dry grass. For years, I'd been their safety net, their scapegoat, their silent provider. Every emergency they'd had, mom's broken water heater, my sister's credit card debt, my other sister's wedding flowers, had somehow landed on my credit card. And every time, I'd been the good one. The dependable one. The one who didn't say no. Until now. That night, my oldest sister showed up at my door. She didn't call first. She still had the spare key from 3 years ago and thought that meant she could come and go as she pleased. But I'd changed the locks that morning. She banged on the door, hard. Marta. Are you serious with this? You're ruining everything. Mary peeked from the hallway, wide-eyed. I told her to go to her room and turned the bolt slowly. I'm not paying for anything else, I said through the crack in the door. My voice was calm, foreign even to me. I'm done being your backup plan. You're losing it, she snapped. Everyone's saying you've gone cold. I almost laughed. Cold? I'd been burning myself alive for them for years. This was the first time I'd cooled down enough to feel human again. By Monday, Mom had taken things public. A Facebook post, because of course she did. A long, self-pitying paragraph about ungrateful children who forget where they come from. Comments poured in from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Praying for you, Auntie. So sorry you're going through this. I didn't engage. I made Mary's lunch, took her to school, and went to work like nothing happened. But inside, something was shifting. That afternoon, I found a little note in Mary's backpack. It was written in her careful, looping handwriting. You're the best mom in the world. I don't need anyone else. I cried in my car for 10 minutes. Not from sadness, this time it was relief. That night, I posted exactly one thing to my own social media. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop showing up for people who never show up for you. Then I turned my phone off and slept better than I had in years. But peace never lasts long when your family feeds on drama. Because the next morning, I opened my door to find 2 envelopes wedged under the mat, one from my mother, and one official-looking, stamped with the words "Notice of Financial Obligation." My heart stuttered. Apparently, they were done asking nicely. The envelope from my mother was exactly what I expected, 3 pages of guilt, scripture, and subtle threats. Honor thy mother, she'd written in neat cursive. You were blessed with more stability than your sisters. It's your duty to share it. God doesn't bless the selfish. I set it down beside my coffee, resisting the urge to laugh or scream. The second envelope, the official one, wasn't from heaven. It was from hell in the form of a law firm header. This is to notify you that you have been listed as a sponsor for Ms. Sophia Reyes' event and are financially responsible for the following items. I blinked at it. My sister had actually submitted a contract in my name. My name. My signature, poorly forged, but enough to look real. I felt something snap. Not loud, not dramatic. More like a small internal click, the sound of a lock finally undone. By noon, I was sitting at the police station, explaining to an officer why I needed to file a report for identity fraud. He raised his brows when I told him it was my own sister. Family, huh, he said, shaking his head. We get a lot of that. The officer took my statement, copied the contract, and told me not to worry. You did the right thing, ma'am. You're protected now. Protected. I rolled the word around in my mind all day. That night, I changed my phone number. I blocked half my family. I even closed the shared family bank account I'd kept open out of respect. It felt like cutting off an anchor. 2 days later, they showed up. All 3 of them, Mom and my 2 sisters, standing on my porch like the ghosts of bad decisions past. Mom had that purse she only carried when she wanted to look respectable, and my sisters had matching fake smile expressions. Mary saw them through the window and whispered, "Do we have to let them in?" "No," I said. And I meant it. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. The air was thick with perfume and tension. Mom started the show first. "How could you involve the police, Marta? Do you know what people are saying?" "I know what you did," I said evenly. "You forged my name." "That's ridiculous," my oldest sister said, her voice all saccharine. "It was just a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I handed them the printed copy of the report. "The police didn't think so." For a moment, no one spoke. Then my mother's mask cracked. "You've always thought you were better than us. You think because you've got that little apartment and that job." I stopped her right there. "I don't think I'm better. I just finally think I'm enough. And I'm done being punished for it." She stared at me like she didn't recognize the daughter standing in front of her. Maybe she didn't. When they realized they couldn't guilt me, they tried another angle, louder, meaner. Neighbors peeked from their windows. Mary watched from inside, clutching her stuffed bunny. That was the moment I knew I wasn't going back. I told them calmly, "Leave now. If you come again, I'll call the police." They did leave, but not quietly. My sister shouted something about betrayal loud enough for the whole block to hear. I shut the door and exhaled. Then came a soft knock, this time from the opposite side. My neighbor, Mrs. Patel, holding a Tupperware of biryani and a gentle smile. "Heard some yelling," she said. "Thought you might need dinner." That night, as Mary and I ate at the kitchen table, the biryani steaming between us, I realized something simple and astonishing. The people who care about you don't demand proof. They just show up, with food, with kindness, with quiet understanding. And for the first time, I began to believe I could build a life on that kind of love. But the calm was short-lived. Because 3 days later, my mother posted a photo of herself crying on Facebook, with the caption, "When your own child calls the police on her family." And the comments were about to light everything on fire. If you've never had your entire family mourn you while you're still alive, I don't recommend it. Mom's post went viral within our extended circle, cousins I hadn't spoken to since high school, church ladies, her old coworkers, even a neighbor from my childhood who once borrowed our lawnmower. All commenting things like "Stay strong, Mama," and "God will handle the ungrateful." My sisters joined in, of course. My oldest wrote, "Family isn't supposed to turn their backs. Some people forget who raised them." My middle sister added a picture of herself and Mom with a caption so theatrical it could have earned an Emmy. "We only ever wanted love." I should have been used to their tactics by now, the public martyrdom, the twisting of facts, but it still stung. Seeing hundreds of likes under lies about me was like watching strangers build a bonfire with my name on it. Mary saw it too. She's 10, but she's smart. Too smart sometimes. She sat at the kitchen table scrolling through my mom's page, frowning. "Grandma said you hate her." I took her phone gently. "Grandma's upset, sweetie. Sometimes people say things when they're hurt." She thought about that, then asked, "But why's she hurt?" "You didn't do anything wrong." I couldn't answer. How do you explain generational manipulation to a child who still believes in birthday wishes? Later that night, I got a message request from my cousin, the family gossip engine. "Hey, just so you know, everyone's saying you stole money from Grandma. She's telling people you drained her account." I laughed out loud. It was so absurd it circled back to funny. But something inside me refused to be small again. I didn't post a rebuttal or write a thread defending myself. I simply commented under my mother's crying selfie. "I wish you all well." Then I logged off. The silence that followed was deafening. No one knew how to respond. They thrived on chaos, not calm. The next morning, I walked Mary to school like usual. As we reached the gate, the security guard waved and said, "Your little one's always smiling." It hit me then, even through all this, she was still happy. Maybe because she finally had a mom who wasn't always anxious, always exhausted from fixing everyone else's fires. When I came home, I found a small envelope taped to my door. Inside was a handwritten note. "You're doing the right thing. Some of us have been there too. K." No return address. Just that single initial. I looked around, confused, until I spotted Aunt Katrin from 2 houses down watering her plants. My mother's estranged sister, the black sheep who'd been cut off years ago for disrespecting the family. She saw me holding the note and smiled, that quiet, knowing kind of smile. That evening, she invited Mary and me over for tea. Her house smelled like cinnamon and second chances. We talked for hours, about boundaries, guilt, freedom. She told me she'd gone through the same thing years ago, being the good daughter, paying everyone's debts, until she finally walked away. "They'll hate you for a while," she said. "But they'll also have to learn to stand on their own. That's how you know you did the right thing." By the time we left, she'd sent us home with a jar of homemade jam and a new kind of warmth, the kind that didn't require apology. That night, as Mary drifted to sleep, she murmured, "Mom, we're okay now, right?" I kissed her forehead. "Yeah, baby. We're okay." But just as I turned off the light, my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. A voice message. When I pressed play, my mother's voice came through, soft, tearful, rehearsed. "Marta, if you don't fix this, we'll have no choice but to get the law involved. You've turned your back on your blood." I stared at the phone, the shadows dancing across my wall. They weren't done. Not by a long shot. The voicemail had that fake tremble my mother always used when she was about to manipulate someone, the same tone she used when I was 13 and she told me crying made me ungrateful. I deleted it, but the unease lingered. I knew her too well. When she said "we'll have no choice," it meant she was already plotting. For 2 days, it was quiet, too quiet. I went to work, packed Mary's lunches, watched a movie with her in our little living room. She'd started drawing again, bright, wild pictures of a house with a garden and 2 smiling people. "That's us," she said proudly. But on Thursday afternoon, everything tilted. When I got home from work, the front gate was open. My stomach dropped. I always locked it. Mary was still at school, thank God. I stepped inside slowly and saw it, the living room drawers open, mail scattered, my mother's handwriting on an envelope sitting dead center on the table. Inside was a letter. "Since you insist on embarrassing this family, we're taking what's ours." I took the photo albums. "Don't bother asking for them back. Maybe when you apologize, you'll earn your memories again." She had come into my house. I stood there shaking, not from fear, but fury. They'd crossed the line from manipulation into invasion. I called the police again, filed a report for trespassing and theft. The officer recognized me from before. "They just don't quit, huh?" he said. He promised to send a patrol car by the neighborhood for a few days. That night, I sat on the couch with the new locks I'd bought earlier that week still in their packaging. I installed them myself, double deadbolt, reinforced latch, even a new alarm. I felt ridiculous and strong all at once. When Mary came home, I didn't tell her about the break-in. I just said, "We're keeping our home extra safe now." She nodded solemnly and handed me a drawing of our house again, but this time there was a fence covered in flowers. "See? No bad people can come in." The next day, I finally told Aunt Katrin. She didn't look surprised. "They did this to me too," she said quietly. "They took my journals once, said I didn't deserve to keep my side of the story." Then she reached across the table and placed her hand over mine. "You can't fight them the old way, Marta. They feed on guilt. You have to starve them with peace." So that's what I tried to do. Over the next week, I stopped engaging. No texts. No calls. I didn't even look at their social media. I focused on work, cooked with Mary, and started jogging in the mornings again. For a while, it felt almost normal. Until the doorbell rang one evening, and this time, it wasn't them. It was a man in a suit holding a clipboard. "Ma'am, I'm serving you on behalf of the Reyes family." I stared at the envelope. My hands went cold. Inside was a legal notice, a petition for financial restitution. My mother and sisters were actually suing me for emotional and reputational damages. It was ridiculous. Insane. But real. I laughed, sharp, shaky, a little unhinged, and the man blinked like he wasn't sure if he should leave or call for backup. After he left, I sat down on the steps with the notice in my lap. For a long time I just stared at the paper. Then I whispered, "No more." That night, I called a lawyer. Not the kind my mother would expect, the free legal aid one recommended by Mrs. Patel. The woman on the phone listened quietly, then said, "You've got nothing to worry about. We see this all the time with controlling families. We'll handle it." It was the first time in years I felt protected by someone other than myself. But as the court date approached, I had no idea just how ugly things were about to get, or how, in the middle of that mess, I'd find something that would finally break the curse my family had held over me my whole life. The morning of the hearing, the sky looked like wet concrete. Mary stayed with Aunt Katrin while I dressed in my one serious outfit, navy slacks, a white blouse, and trembling hands I couldn't keep still. My lawyer, a kind woman named Valerie, met me outside the courthouse and handed me a cup of coffee. "You're not on trial," she said softly. "You're reclaiming your life." Inside, my family was already there, a front row spectacle. My mother wore her church pearls, the ones she saved for baptisms and drama. My sisters sat on either side like loyal disciples, whispering behind manicured nails. When my mother saw me, she shook her head in theatrical disappointment. "Still no shame," she muttered loudly enough for the clerk to hear. Valerie squeezed my arm. "Let them perform. We'll just tell the truth." The hearing wasn't as dramatic as they'd hoped. The judge, a tired-looking man with half-moon glasses, read through the complaint: emotional damages, financial betrayal, defamation of character. He frowned. "You're claiming this woman owes you $20,000 because she refused to continue giving you money?" My mother jumped in, voice quivering with polished sorrow. "It's not about the money, Your Honor. It's about respect." Valerie stood calmly. "Respect isn't a financial transaction, Your Honor. My client hasn't taken a cent from them. In fact, the evidence shows the opposite." She slid a stack of bank statements across the table. "Over the past 6 years, Ms. Marta Reyes has transferred over $38,000 to this family, none of which was repaid." The room went quiet. My sisters looked like deflated balloons. My mother's face turned an unnatural shade of pink. The judge cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I suggest you withdraw this case before I consider sanctions for frivolous litigation." They withdrew. Just like that, it was over. No shouting, no fireworks, just silence. The kind of silence that follows when a storm realizes it's out of thunder. Outside the courthouse, Valerie smiled. "You're free of them now, Marta. At least legally." I didn't realize until that moment that I'd been holding my breath for years. But freedom has an echo, and sometimes it sounds like guilt trying to crawl back in. That night, my phone buzzed again. A message from Mom. "You'll regret humiliating your family like that. We'll never forgive you." For once, the words didn't sting. They just fell flat. I turned my phone off, made hot chocolate with Mary, and put on her favorite movie. Midway through, she leaned against me and whispered, "You're not scared anymore." "No," I said, kissing the top of her head. "I'm not." That weekend, Aunt Katrin invited us and Mrs. Patel's family over for dinner. It wasn't anything fancy: rice, stew, laughter, music from someone's old speaker. But halfway through, I realized something: this felt like family. Real family. The kind that listened, shared, showed up. Mrs. Patel clinked her glass. To new beginnings, she said. Everyone cheered. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something to go wrong. I felt home. But peace, I was learning, has a price, and when my family realized they couldn't control me with guilt or the law, they decided to try something even crueler. Because the next week, someone started spreading rumors at Mary's school. It started with whispers, the kind that slither through hallways and linger like smoke. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Teachers who used to smile at drop-offs suddenly looked awkward. Parents I'd chatted with at bake sales gave polite nods and quick exits. Then one afternoon, Mary came home quieter than usual. Her glitter backpack hung off one shoulder, and her eyes looked older than 10. "Mom," she said, her voice small. "Is it true you got arrested?" My heart dropped. "What? Of course not. Who told you that?" She shrugged, blinking fast. "Lila's mom said you stole from Grandma. She said that's why we don't talk to them anymore." For a moment, all I could hear was the refrigerator humming and my pulse pounding in my ears. They were trying to ruin me through her. I crouched down so we were eye level. "Sweetheart, listen to me. None of that is true. Grown-ups can lie, too, especially when they're angry. You know me, right?" She nodded. "You'd never steal." That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the dark scrolling through local Facebook groups. Sure enough, there it was, a post in a community forum, written under a fake account but full of familiar phrasing. "Some people pretend to be saints but rob their own mothers. Be careful who you trust around your kids." Hundreds of views. A few comments. And a photo of me at the farmer's market, clearly taken without my permission. I didn't even have to guess who did it. The next morning, I went straight to the police station. The officer from before, Daniels, recognized me immediately. "You again, huh? What did they do this time?" I showed him the post. He frowned. "Cyber harassment. We can file it." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes, not from weakness, but sheer exhaustion. "I just want them to stop." He promised to trace the account. Later that day, I got a call from Mary's teacher, Mrs. Sanders. "I wanted you to know," she said gently, "that Mary told me about what's been said. We don't believe it, Marta. She's a wonderful kid, and you're a wonderful mom." I nearly cried right there in the parking lot. Word spread quietly, not the lies, but the truth. Neighbors who'd been distant started smiling again. Mrs. Patel even told off one of my sisters in the grocery store parking lot. "How dare you use a child for your drama," she'd said, according to the cashier. For every rumor they spread, someone kind pushed back. And then something unexpected happened. A message popped up on my phone, from my middle sister, Sophia. The one who'd forged my signature. "I didn't know Mom went that far. She's out of control. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time. A part of me wanted to delete it immediately, no more chances, no more wounds. But another part, the one that still remembered our childhood bunk beds and whispered secrets, hesitated. We met at a small cafe on a Wednesday afternoon. She looked thinner, tired. "I didn't know about the post," she said. "I swear. Mom told me you'd forgive us if we pushed a little harder. She made it sound like you just needed to be reminded of your responsibilities." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Responsibilities? Or servitude?" She looked down. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'm trying to move out from under her, too." It wasn't reconciliation, not exactly. But it was real. A crack in the wall. Before we left, she said something that stuck. "You were always the strong one, Marta." I just didn't realize strength could look like walking away. That night, as Mary fell asleep beside me, I whispered, "We're almost free." But freedom, I was learning, had layers, and I was about to uncover the deepest one yet, the part that had kept me chained all these years. Because soon, I'd learn the truth about why my mother had always kept me under her thumb, a truth that had been hidden in a bank document buried deep in her old mail. It happened by accident, the way life-changing things usually do. A week after seeing Sophia, I got a call from a bank I didn't even recognize. The woman on the line said, "Hello, Ms. Reyes, we're just following up about the account transfer request you submitted." "What account?" I asked, instantly suspicious. She gave me a number, not my checking, not my savings, something completely unfamiliar. "It's been active for 15 years, she said. "Under your name, with your mother as a co-signer." My heart stuttered. 15 years. That would have been right around the time I got my first real job, the one where Mom insisted she'd help me manage my money. "I didn't authorize a transfer," I said. "And I never opened an account with her." The woman hesitated. "Would you like me to email you the statements?" "Yes," I whispered. When they arrived, I opened the file, and my stomach turned. There it was in black and white, a joint account with my name, but the deposits weren't mine. They were my paychecks, small automatic deductions I'd never noticed on my stubs. 4 years. Thousands of dollars. Transferred every month into this family fund Mom had created, quietly siphoning my income under the guise of helping with household bills back when I was young and trusting. And she'd kept it open. Even after I moved out, even after I had Mary, even after I told her I couldn't afford to keep helping. I sat at the kitchen table shaking, every betrayal snapping into focus. All those times she'd said, "You have more than enough, Marta, don't be so stingy, family sacrifices." She hadn't just used me emotionally, she'd used me financially, for over a decade. I called Valerie, my lawyer, immediately. She whistled low when she saw the numbers. "This isn't just manipulation anymore. It's embezzlement. And you could get it all back." But revenge wasn't what I wanted. Not anymore. I wanted peace. Closure. To look that woman in the eye and say the one word I'd never been able to say before. No. That night, I drove to my mother's house for the first time in months. I didn't tell her I was coming. When she opened the door, her face flickered between triumph and fear. "Marta," she said, half smile, half snarl. "You look thin. Are you eating?" I stepped inside without answering and laid the bank statements on her coffee table. She didn't even glance down. "Oh, those old things. You agreed to that. You said you wanted to help." "When I was 20, I said evenly. And you never told me it was still active." She folded her arms. "So what? Family shares. Family supports." "No, Mom," I said. "Family doesn't steal." Her face hardened. "You wouldn't have had a roof without me." I smiled, not cruelly, but with something that felt like mercy. "And you wouldn't have kept it without me. We're even." I turned to leave. She called after me, voice rising like it used to when she wanted to reel me back in. "You can't just walk away, Marta." But I didn't stop. Not this time. When I got home, Mary was drawing again, this time a big, bright sun over 2 people holding hands. "Is that us?" I asked. She nodded. "I made it for your room. It looks too empty now that you took all the sad pictures down." I laughed softly. "You're right. It needs light." That night, I framed her drawing and hung it over my bed. It wasn't revenge that filled me, it was relief. But the universe, as if rewarding my final act of courage, had one more surprise waiting for me, something small, unexpected, and beautiful that would change everything again. Because the next morning, when I checked my mail, I found a handwritten envelope. No return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $20,000, and a short note that said only, "For Mary's future." From someone who finally understands what family means. It was signed, Sophia. I stared at the check for a long time, the morning light catching the ink like something holy. $20,000, the exact amount my mother had sued me for. I didn't cry, but something inside me unclenched, like an old wound finally closing. I called Sophia once, just to say thank you. She didn't pick up, but she texted back. Don't thank me. Thank yourself for showing me how to be free. From that moment, I stopped looking backward. I opened a savings account in Mary's name, her college fund, her freedom fund, whatever she decided it would be. Then I painted our living room walls a soft yellow and replaced the heavy curtains with sunlight. Neighbors dropped by more often, Mrs. Patel with fresh naan, Aunt Katrin with stories, even the twins' mom offering to babysit so I could have a night out. People showed up. Real ones. And slowly, laughter came back into our home. Not forced or brave, just laughter. One evening, Mary and I were baking cookies when she said, "Mom, I like our family now. It's small, but it's happy." I smiled. That's the best kind. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, gentle and new. For the first time in forever, I wasn't waiting for the next crisis. I was living, really living, in peace. The storm was finally over. Spring came quietly, the way healing does. The court papers, the threats, the tears, all of it felt like another lifetime. Our little home finally smelled like cinnamon and laughter instead of fear. On Mary's next birthday, the living room was full again, Aunt Katrin, Mrs. Patel's family, the neighbors, and even Sophia, who showed up shyly with balloons and a homemade cake. No drama, no absences, no guilt. Just warmth. When everyone sang, I looked at Mary, bright-eyed, growing, free, and thought, this is what family is supposed to feel like. After the guests left, she hugged me tight and said, this was the best birthday ever. And it was. Because for the first time I wasn't waiting for love to hurt. It was finally safe. Mary blew out her candles, I made a wish of my own, and this time, it wasn't for peace, it was gratitude. We already had peace.